Hello, I'm Westchester County Executive George Latimer. Thank you for taking time out of your day to participate in this webinar and to learn a little bit more about the Small Business Recovery Grant Program. Our Office of Economic Development is in place to help local businesses reimagine, renew, and rebuild. The New York State COVID-19 Pandemic Small Business Recovery Grant Program was created to provide flexible grant assistance to eligible small businesses experiencing economic hardship during this pandemic. Today, you will learn who can apply, how to apply, and how much your business can qualify for. This is an $800 million grant program statewide. Grants will be calculated based on a business's annual gross receipts for 2019. These grants must be used for COVID-19 related losses or expenses that have been incurred during the period of time from March 1st, 2020 and April 1st, 2021. If your business receives a grant, it can be used for payroll costs, utility costs, insurance costs, personal protection equipment, we commonly call that PPE, and everything that's necessary to protect worker and consumer health and safety. It's also eligible for heating, ventilating, and air conditioning costs, supplies and materials necessary for compliance with COVID-19 health and safety protocols. I hope today's webinar is beneficial to you and your business. Thank you for being a part of the Westchester community and providing opportunities for consumers and for our residents. Best of luck to all of you and much continued success.
I'm going to hand it over to Bridget Givens to give us a few words. We're going to try if we can get the video on at the conclusion of the event. And then I'll bring it back to you so that you can share your screen.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning, everyone. I'm Bridget Gibbons, Director of Economic Development for Westchester County. On behalf of County Executive Latimer, since we couldn't hear his words, I want to welcome you all here. We really appreciate you taking the time from your busy schedules to participate in this very important webinar. We know how busy you are, and so every minute that you can spend with us, we very much appreciate. Wei Min from the SBA is going to present about the $800 million grant program that the state is offering. And it's really appropriate for our small businesses in Westchester, and we really encourage you all to apply. There are some restrictions on eligibility, but for the most part, most of our businesses in Westchester should be eligible. So Wei Min will be sharing some really important information to make sure your application doesn't get rejected because it's pretty specific. Anyhow, I want to thank my team, Corazon and Chloe, for their hard work in putting this presentation together. I hope you get a lot out of today's session. And thank you very much for being here. And over to you, Wei Min.
Thank you. Could you please give me the host options? I can share my file right now. I am seeing that I can't do that. Thank you.
You can try to share now, Wei Min.
Okay, let me try again. Okay. Yep, I can see. Okay, thank you. Great. Thank you so much for the invitation to present to the Westchester community. Thank you, Bridget, for the introduction. My name is Wei Min Chuang. I'm the Senior Director for Business and Economic Development at Empire State Development. This is the New York State COVID-19 Pandemic Small Business Recovery Grant Program that we'll be covering today. We're going to go through the program overview, the application process, who can qualify, how you can apply, how much you can qualify for once you apply, what documentation you need to prepare, and then follow up next steps, as well as the toll-free number or any other technical assistance you may need in order to complete the application. So without further ado, I'm going to walk you through the details of the program. Now, the presentation that you see currently on the screen, it's a very detailed program guide that can be found at www.nysmallbusinessrecovery.com. Once again, www.nysmallbusinessrecovery.com. nysmallbusinessrecovery.com. When you go to that portal, that's where you also will submit your application if you're interested in applying after this presentation. You can scroll down to the middle of the page. There will be a program guide square link that you can click on for 13 languages. So in case you are more familiar with a native language that you're comfortable with, you can click on one of the 13 languages that have been offered, or you can just simply click on English, which you will see exactly this presentation. So you don't need to take copious notes. I would just like you to pay attention to the presentation right now, listen to it, and then jot down any questions you may have and put it in the Q&A or the chat box. And Corazon will be able to read the question to me at the end of the presentation, and then we can address those. So let me just go through the first overview. So what is the $800 million Small Business Recovery Grant Program? It's a small business recovery grant program that was created to provide flexible grant financing, grant assistance to currently viable small businesses, micro businesses, and for-profit independent arts and cultural organizations in New York State who have experienced economic hardship due to COVID-19 pandemic. So very important on the introduction overview, the word viable and located in the state of New York. We'll go through some of that stipulation a little more in detail in a moment. So how much can you qualify for? You will be qualified for a grant based on your annual gross receipts that you may have filed with the federal income tax returns in 2019 prior to COVID. So if you take your federal tax return from 2019, and if your gross receipts or gross revenue at the very top line is between the amount of $25,000 and $2.5 million, you're eligible for a grant if you can meet the eligibility criteria that I will also share in a moment. So if you actually had a gross receipt of $25,000 to $49,999, you're eligible to receive a grant of $5,000 per business. If your gross receipts in 2019 tax return indicates $50,000 to $99,999, you're eligible to receive a grant of $10,000. If your gross receipt is between $100,000 and $2.5 million, you're maxed out at 10% of the gross receipts or $50,000, whichever is less. So if your income was $2.5 million in your 2019 tax returns, you're maxed out at $50,000. Now, the program has increased its eligibility from $5,000 to $2.5 million. If you have heard about the program from July, we upped the revenue threshold to welcome applications from small businesses that are in the threshold of $500,000 to $2.5 to be able to take advantage of this program. So if you are in that boat, please submit your application as soon as possible. We'd love to be able to help you with a grant. And also, if you know of any business in your community that may be help with the assistance of a grant program, please also let them know and share about the program.
Are you listen? Can you listen to her and I'll just...
I'm sorry. I think somebody is speaking. If you could mute yourself, that would be great because it's being recorded for use after the event. Thank you. And wanted to emphasize, if you have more than one business, you're welcome to apply to the grant program as long as you have a distinctive EIN number, an employee identification number. So if you can provide tax return that are distinctive in your IEN, you can apply for more than one grant. So let me explain who is an eligible business. It's a small business or a micro business or for-profit independent and arts and cultural organization. So the definition for small business for this program is basically a small business that is resident, incorporated, licensed, registered, and independently owned and operated and not dominant in its field and has 100 or fewer employees. Same definition that I gave for eligible business for a micro business, but we are targeting businesses that have fewer than 10 employees. We also want to assist for-profit independent arts and cultural organizations. What does that mean? That means it's a small, medium-sized, private, for-profit, independently operated live performance venue, a promoter production company, a performance-related business that is located in the state of New York that may have been negatively impacted by COVID-19 health and safety protocols, and that do have fewer than 100 employees or full-time equivalent employees. Knowing that a lot of entertainment business may have seasonal employees or contractor-based employees that are part-timers, you could take all of your hours worked per week by the pool of employees that you have and divide by 40 hours. So for every 40 hours a week, we count that as one full-time equivalent employee. So if you only have business during the summer mostly, you can add up all the hours, divide by 40 per week, and then we can arrive at the full-time equivalent. Now, I want to pause for just 1 second and encourage you to think about all the lovely free time entertainment, leisure time entertainment that you may have used to frequent, like movie theaters or people that you may have seen, the musicians, all the live entertainment that you used to enjoy. Please reach out to them and let them know that there's a grant program for them to apply. They typically are not really in the know about state programs or federal aid, so please do share this info with them, and we'll love to see them performing again on our New York State stages. So all the applicants who are applying for the program must demonstrate that they have been impacted by COVID-19 health and safety protocols. And what do we mean by that? We mean the safety protocols that were restrictions imposed on the operation of the business by Executive Order 202 of 2020 that was issued by the governor, or any other extension subsequent executive orders that was issued in response to COVID-19 pandemic. So I believe that 99.9% of all businesses in the state of New York have been impacted one way or another by COVID-19. So I believe that you should be able to apply if you're one of the three categories of eligible applicant that I mentioned. Now I'm going to walk you through some other additional business qualifications besides being a small business or a micro business or for-profit art and entertainment business. So there are two revenue tests that you must meet. One is you must have revenue of $25,000 to $2.5 and show that on your tax returns of 2019, you were at the time a viable business. So viability we determine by looking at your net income number on the same tax return that you had demonstrated the revenues. You need to have $1 or greater on your net profit in order for us to consider your business viable as part of the definition for eligibility for the program. And secondarily, the second test is the revenue loss. So we want to see how you got impacted by COVID-19. So you would take your 2020 tax return that you filed with the IRS and 2019 tax return and compare at the very top line of your revenue. You must demonstrate that you had a loss of 25% or greater in order to qualify for the program. So for example, if you take your tax returns and you look at your top line revenue on 2020 or 2019 for a corporation or a partnership, you look at line 1A of the IRS Form 1120 or 1065. If you're a sole proprietor, we're looking at your line 1 of your IRS Form 1040 or Schedule C, or the sum of 1A plus line 2 on your IRS 1040 form, Schedule F. You also need to demonstrate, like I said before, your $1 greater net profit. You can find that line on your tax returns on line 28 if you are a business, corporation, or partnership on IRS Form 1120, line 21, or IRS Form 1120F. Or if you are filing 1065 forms, you can find that on line 22. And Schedule C filer for sole proprietor, that will be line 31. And for Schedule F filer, sole proprietor is line 34. Now, all of this is indicated on this program guide. So if you're taking notes right now, don't worry. You can refer back again to this program guide at www.nysmallbusinessrecovery.com. Now, this demonstration of 25%, you just do the basic calculation. And for the sole proprietors, I like to emphasize one important point. So in this slide, you're going to see an example. If you were an employee during the pandemic because you're the only person working for the business as a sole proprietor and you were able to qualify for the pandemic unemployment assistance as a business owner and employee of the business, you receive a collection of PUA money. So we need to add the PUA money back to your top line of revenue as a sole proprietor. So for example, if before putting back and adding back the PUA money, basically your annual gross receipts was $1 million in 2019, and in 2020 your gross receipts was $750,000. That is a total loss of 25% as indicated in this example to the left. Now, if you add back what you receive as an employment benefit during the period of 2020, let's say you received $10,000 total in an employment benefit as a sole proprietor owner, as well as the only employee of the business, you receive $10,000, which we add back to your revenue of $750,000. That would add to $760,000 in total. And unfortunately, for this example, your total loss was 24%, and unfortunately, you're no longer eligible for the grant. So again, you need to demonstrate a 25% loss in revenue in 2020 when comparing to 2019 tax return data. Additional eligibility qualifications. You must demonstrate that the total grant you're going to receive does not exceed the total expenses of your 2020 tax return. So, for example, if you were awarded a $10,000 grant, but however, on your tax returns, your expenses were only $8,000, your grant amount will be maxed out at $8,000. You also must be in substantial compliance with applicable federal, state, and local laws, regulations, codes, and requirements. You must not owe any federal, state, or local taxes prior to July 15 of 2020, unless you are covered by a pre-existing negotiated approved payment plan, moratorium in your payments, deferral plan, or any other applicable legal agreement that you may have already set up with a federal, state, or local taxing authority. And for those who are applying and wondering, I did apply for some other SBA federal assistance. This is a state grant. How would that impact me? Can I still apply? Well, in the legislation that enacted the $800 million program, there was language about not able to access certain assistance under this program. But let me explain to you what that means. So on bullet point 7, it says not have qualified for business grant assistance programs under the Federal American Rescue Plan Act of 2021 or any other available federal COVID-19 economic recovery or business assistance grant programs, including loans forgiven under the Federal Paycheck Protection Program, or are unable to obtain sufficient business assistance from such federal programs. I know that was a mouthful. It's the exact language from the legislation. Let me parse it out and give it to you simply. If you did apply for the Paycheck Protection Program, doesn't matter whether phase 1 or phase 2, whether you are under forgiveness or some part of it got forgiven, some part didn't. You just add up all the amounts that you did apply and got funded for PPP. If it's less than $250,000, you're eligible to apply for this grant program. If you also apply for COVID-19 IEDL advance grant of $10,000, emphasis on the grant portion, not the loan portion of IEDL. So if you apply for IEDL and you got a $200,000 loan and a $10,000 grant or less, you can still apply for the program. If you apply for the second COVID-19 IEDL supplemental targeted advance grant or loan, as long as the grant amount is less than $5,000, it doesn't matter how much you receive for the loan, you are still eligible to apply for the program. Now, if you are a charter venue entertainment operator and you apply for any amount and were awarded any amount from the SBA charter venue operator grant program, you still are able to apply for the program. Now, if you were lucky and received all 4 assistance from the federal government, and as long as the threshold were under the ones I dictated before, please proceed and apply for the program. Eligible applicants have to demonstrate that they have been operational since the date of application in order to proceed with the application. So if you were chartered for any period of time during COVID, that's fine. As long as right now you're operational and intend to operate, you can proceed with the application. Now, the amount of funding may sound large at $800 million, and we don't have the high volume. We are going to prioritize receipt of applications based on some target group that we may award first before we distribute the rest of the funds to other groups. So just note that some business type, geography, industry may be a factor in your ability to receive a grant. And priorities will be given particularly to socially and economically disadvantaged business owners, including but not limited to self-declared individuals with disabilities, service-disabled veteran-owned businesses, businesses located in communities that are economically distressed prior to March 1st of 2020 as demonstrated with data from census. So you don't have to be certified in order to get priority in your award as long as you're declaring yourself as such and you can demonstrate if asked for proof. And applicants are encouraged to get the documentation, gathering those documentation that I'm going to share what those lists are as soon as you think you want to apply. Once you do apply and set up an account on the website, you have 14 days after a submission of your initial application with basic data on your business to upload your documents. Documents are required to be uploaded at least the first 14 days if possible, and if you are inactive on your accounts for more than 60 days, you'll be left inactive unless you call the customer service number to reactivate it. Now, I did mention the customer service number, and for those who have been listening, please take down this number in case you have questions after the event, as well as people who you may refer the program to who are not part of this program right now but are able to listen to the webinar after the event since it's being recorded. You could call toll-free at 1-877-721-0097. Once again, it's 1-877-721-0097 at the toll-free number from Monday to Saturday. And if you need assistance in any other language besides English, so for example, if you need Spanish language assistance for the program, or your question is very specific, I need to speak to someone who can speak your language, please ask the customer service person that you'd like to be connected to one of the 13 languages for the program. So now we talked about who can apply for the program. So let me touch upon briefly who is ineligible for application for this program. Nonprofits, churches, and other religious institutions are not able to apply. Government-owned entities or elected official offices, businesses primarily engaged in political or lobbying activities, businesses that receive awards from the SBA Restaurant Revitalization Grant Program, and landlords and passive real estate income businesses. However, let me point out, if you're a broker, a real estate broker who facilitates the sale and disposal of assets like real estate, your business is a brokerage and not holding of the passive income, then you can apply for the program. So again, please let realtors you know who are in the business of facilitating sale and buying of real estate properties that they're eligible to apply, as long as they don't hold the properties themselves. And if you're illegal businesses and enterprise, you're not able to apply, and any other industry and business type that we may specify in the future. Now that you know you can apply for the program and you know how much you can qualify for, once you actually do apply and receive the funds, how can you use the funds? So the eligible uses of the funds are pretty flexible, and the grant amounts that you receive must be used particularly for COVID-19 related expenses that were incurred between March 1st of 2020 and April 1st of 2021. So this program is the grant program for reimbursement. So you could pay for payroll costs that were incurred during that period that I mentioned, commercial rent or mortgage payment for New York State-based property that you use for your business, payment of local property taxes, the full taxes associated with that location for the small business. You could pay for insurance costs, utility costs, costs of personal protection equipment, PPE that was necessary for yourself, for your workers, or for your consumer safety and health. You can also pay for HVAC upgrades or new machinery equipment, or for outside uses for your business that relates to COVID, or any other machinery equipment typical of your operation, or supplies and material that was necessary to comply for any requirements of COVID-19 health and safety protocols. Or if you have any other uses that are not listed here, please document it and ask for ESD for approval for those. But basically, the grant can be used for any expenses that was not paid out already or have not been paid out by other grants they may have received. The ineligible use of funds include also any loans you may have outstanding with the federal government or with the state of New York. You cannot repay your loans with these proceeds of grant funds. So now that we know how can you use the money, we need to make sure you can apply and receive the funds. So one very critical advice I have is, as long as you get off this webinar and you think you want to proceed with the opening of the account for the application, I suggest you start gathering the documentation. So listen carefully to the documentation section, because if you do not upload the documents correctly, your application will not be moved on for verification or validation. So if you get stuck on the documentation upload stage and they are not properly uploaded or they are not provided accurately, you'll be asked to submit the appropriate documentation. And if you don't have that ready, you will not move on to the next stage. So the first two documents I like you to make sure that you can find and actually have is the full set of your tax returns from 2020 that you may have just recently filed with the federal government, with the IRS, and your tax return from 2019. So read the whole set. Please do not just scan the first page or the last page or just the Schedule C. You need to be complete. So please find your 2020 and 2019 tax returns so we can calculate eligibility. Now, for those people who may submit the complete set and there's some questions pending, it's possible that you may be contacted to fill out a form called the IRS Form 4506-C. You'll be contacted by a partner of the program that the state has contracted to review your application and to administer the program. The entity is called Lendistry, Lendistry. Now, Lendistry will be sending communication to you via your email that you put onto the application. So make sure that you filter out the junk or the filter spam box for this particular entity. Lendistry is going to be the entity reaching out to you, and you will have option to opt in for text messages and for phone calls if you'd like to be reached that way. So make sure you opt in if you'd like to receive messages beyond the email, also that you can get immediate access to updates on your application. So besides the copies of your tax returns for 2019 and 2020, we need to prove that your business location is currently operational. So you must provide two of the following. You definitely, for utility bills, bank statements, and all that, you need to have the bill from the last 30 days, the latest statement that you can find. So they have to be a distinctive type document. So do not provide two copies of the utility bills that you may have that are the same ones. We need two distinctive types of documents. So it could be the current lease, if you signed the lease recently, the utility bill for the last 30 days, any kind of utility bill, current business bank account, current business mortgage statement, business credit card statement, professional insurance bill, payment processing statement, like your commercial MasterCard, Visa, or Discover, or Amex, or PayPal, or Amazon Credit, or any other credit card that is used for the business account. New York State ST 809 form or ST 100 sales tax collection document that you may file either monthly or quarterly, so the most recent one. We just need two of the following, not all of them. So make sure whatever hands you get onto these documents, just have them ready so that you can scan and upload. Now let me walk you through the third type of document that we need. So when you fill in the application, we're going to want to know who owns the business. So if you have multiple owners, we need to have information about owners that may have 20% or more ownership in your program. in your business. So there will be a schedule that I'll show you what it looks like in a second. You're going to fill out basic info that we're going to need from them, which are Social Security, their addresses, their name, their taxpayer identification number. And for anyone who may not be a U.S. citizen and you're non-U.S. owners, you can still apply for the program as long as you can provide the individual taxpayer ID number that could be verified through the IRS Form CP-565. We also need for employers who have more than one employee to provide the NYS 45 document for employer firms so that we know we can calculate whether it's under fewer than 100 employees. And we also need the proof of business organization. The business organization proof could be one of the following documents. It could be a current business license, a current business certificate, a certificate of organization, a certificate of assumed name, New York State Certificate of Authority, Articles of Incorporation, New York State Municipality issued document showing authorization to operate in the state of New York. And lastly, once you provided all the uploaded documents, we're going to want to pay you. So how do we do that? We only distribute funds for this grant program through an electronic transfer. So for the funds to be distributed, we will need a form, IRS Form W-9, and a bank account info. Now, for applicants who may not have a checking business account, we will have resources where you can reach out to any of the credit unions or banks that we list, that I will show you the list in a second, that you can actually tap into and call them and ask for an account to be opened. So if you don't have a business account right now associated with your DBA name business as a sole proprietor or any business that you may have that you don't have your own business checking account, please set up one so that you can receive the money once the time is ready. All right, so now we know what you need to upload. We also need to know how much you can qualify for, who can apply, where to apply. Let me show you the screenshot. This particular program guide, the rest of it, I'm going to walk through them pretty quickly. I just want to let you know what's installed in the rest of the program guide, and you can refer back to it once you're ready and you need information. So for all the documents I mentioned, there are screenshots about what they look like, so you can be comfortable with whatever you're providing that is actually the accurate one, so that it can be rested assured that you have uploaded the right document. So these are the tax return forms, so please take a look and choose the one that most apply to your situation. And that's basically for the calculation of economic hardship and your revenue and your net income numbers. Now, for those who may say to themselves, for the net income, I may have a negative number because of depreciation. Unfortunately, for the program, if the net income number that you see on your tax return is less than $1 and it's not $1 greater, unfortunately, you will not be eligible for the program. It doesn't matter if it's cash basis, you're adding back depreciation or not. So for the organization documents, the 8 that I mentioned before, you can pick basically. Let's take a look, and you can see what they look like. These are all the different types at the very top. It lists the current business license demo, the current business certificate demo screenshot. So these are all the different type of proof of business organization you can use. You just need one of these to be submitted. Again, for the proof of business location, these are some forms, and you can take a look and see which one you may want to upload and what they look like. I did say the schedule ownership. So if you have more than one owner and you like to facilitate information for them to provide to you, please just screenshot this particular page, and you can basically send it to them. It's on page 22 of the program guide. It lists the information that will be required to fill out on your application for each of the owners that may own more than 20%. Lastly, for documents, in terms of the W-9 and the banking info, also you can take down information about the banking info so that we will need that info when time is ready for you to receive the funds. You can ask your bank for assistance on this particular account if you do already have an account. And for those that don't, I will show you in a moment the banks that are able to help you open a bank account for this purpose. This section, the tips for applying, basically gives you some tech tips as well as ways to make sure you can actually proceed with the application seamlessly. I'm not going to walk you through each one of these, but please take a look at the tips that are provided. Very important tip that I'd just like to highlight at the moment. The only way you can upload documents for this program is in a PDF format. The only way that will be accepted is all the pages are scanned as one document PDF, and it looks like this, upright, and they can be seen. It can't be screenshots or a photo taken or sideways. It will be rejected. We will need to be able to read it, scanning it upright like this. And if you need help downloading software or any other questions related to uploaded documents, you are welcome to actually call the toll-free number that I gave before, which is 1-877-721-0097. Now, if they cannot help you directly with a text question or the application or some other more intricate situation that you may have, you could work for free with a technical assistance provider throughout the state. There are 69 of them throughout the state, which you can call remotely to make an appointment and speak to a business counselor, and you can ask them all the questions related to this application or even any other business needs that you may have. They'll be able to help you with your business. How do you locate a technical assistance provider? You can call the toll-free number and ask for a referral in your area code or the language that you need. Or if you're on the portal already on www.nysmallbusinessrecovery.com, you can go to the very top of the page where the navigation bar has a drop-down. The drop-down would have a find a partner or find a language. You put in your zip code for find a partner in your location or basically by language. Then you'll be able to make an appointment for a free one-on-one technical assistance for any inquiries that you may have. Very important point, make sure you have a valid email address that you can be reached. If that is the only way you can be reached, or you can opt in also besides email, like I said, on SMS text or a phone number. The languages that I referred that are the 13 languages that you can access for this program are Arabic, Bengali, Chinese, French, German, Asian Creole, Hindi, Italian, Korean, Polish, Russian, Spanish, and Yiddish. So if you need any of these languages, please go to the program guide, click on the icon that has your preferred language, or you can call the customer service and request to speak to someone live to go through your questions and answers. So this section, which I'm going to walk through also fairly quickly, is to let you know what the application looks like. So if you take a moment after the webinar and you take a look, you know what kind of questions are being asked. They're just information about the business that is represented for the application. Before you begin with the application, you need to open an account for your particular application. So this screen shows on the middle page here that you are ready to apply. So you click on New Application for the grant, And I would suggest completing the application process and get started and not come back to it because you may forget. The wait time should be very seamless, so I don't think the wait time would be more than a couple of minutes. So please just wait on the portal if there are other people applying at the same time as you. Or if you don't want to wait, you could enter your email and they'll be notified if you are being contacted for opening the account. But I would suggest just stay on and follow and complete the application opening process online. Like I said, this whole entire program is only applicable for you if you actually can apply online. So it can only apply for the program via the website I gave, which is www.nysmallbusinessrecovery.com, by opening an account. Everything is electronic for the application. And if you don't have access to a computer, please find a place where you feel comfortable that you can access a computer to upload your documents. Or you can use the Staples or your local Kinko's for the upload of documents. So the basic info, just take a look at this when you have a chance. It gives you the screenshots of each one of the questions that is being asked, and they are pretty straightforward. So lastly, once you're ready to apply, they'll ask you, are you ready to apply? And say yes, and you have to click off on the certifications and disclosures to make sure that whatever you provided is accurate and true. Once you do that, you will, once you hit submit, you get a confirmation email, and it should look like this one to the right-hand side. The confirmation email should have a logo to the top of an Empire State Development and Landlord and the toll-free number, and it gives you the follow-up next step that you must follow in order to upload the document. So if you did complete the application, you receive an email either it says completed file or it says incomplete, and then they'll ask you to upload the document. So very important. If you finish the application and you think you're totally done with the program, that's just the first step. That's the basic info application for the business. The next step is to upload your documents so that they can be verified and be validated for awards. So make sure you don't forget the next step. A lot of businesses think that when they say completed file that they're done. That is not the case. The completed file is only for the initial kickoff of the application. You need to prove your case by uploading documents. Please save in a safe place your password and your username so you can come back to it. And if you forget and you need help tech-wise, please call the toll-free number. Right now, I'm going to walk you through the stages of the application. So once you apply and you uploaded all the documents, these are some of the stages you go through. So once you initially apply for the program, you get either the status complete or incomplete. So when you get a notification that says incomplete, what does that mean? That means you started an online application, but you did not complete it. So what should you do? You should sign back into the portal and complete all the fields in the application. You must submit a finished application in order to be considered for the grant. Now, this, like I said, if you have complete, it still needs you to go upload the document. So the second stage is awaiting selection process. So what does that mean? You have submitted a complete application and is currently awaiting review for eligibility. You can check your email for notification about your selection in your PDF for your selection in terms of like what happens to the application. You can compile all your documents and upload all the required documents in the PDF format right now. So you can either be selected or not selected and move forward to the next stage of the application. Your application may have uploaded document that's being reviewed. So basically what that means is you meet the program minimal eligibility criteria. Then you have been moved to move forward to validation process. So being selected does not necessarily guarantee that you're going to be funded. You're going to need to be reviewed, validated, and you need to provide the electronic transfer info. And what should you do? You should continue to monitor your application or contact Landlord from time to time to find out your status. And if you do call Landlord, they tell you that your document is not complete, please go back to your application and check and verify that the documents are uploaded correctly and that they are the right forms that you need for the application. Next stage will be you're not selected. It could be, for some reason, some of the documents you provided are not meeting the eligibility criteria. You need to basically just verify and double check again the documents you submitted to make sure that they are not exactly, if they're not exactly what's being requested, just take a look. Maybe you do have a different document that can prove your case. Lastly, if you don't do anything after you initially start the application, you have 60 days to finish everything, but we recommend the first 2 weeks of submission, you complete all the applications, so you can move on seamlessly in the process, or otherwise you need to call back the toll-free number to activate your account after 60 days. So now I'm going to talk about a very important screen that you may want to pay attention to when you actually upload documents. This screen that I'm showing you right here on the right-hand side here, all these are in green or orange. If the orange is appearing on your screen, that means that there's something missing. They have to be all in green or have to be not applicable to your case. So make sure that you look at the screenshot of your document upload page and make sure that they are in green. All right. So once you have done all that, you're going to sign off on the application, like I said, and certify to the statement that you were provided, as well as the data that you were provided were true and applicable to your business. And once you do that, you can actually either read it and sign off, or you can download it and read it and basically upload it and scan it back. Lastly, we are at the stage where hopefully you have uploaded all the documents, you have applied, you qualify, you are validated, and now we'd like to give you the funds. So like I said before, they're only going to be electronic transfer to your bank account for you to receive the funds. There are 2 ways to receive the funds. You either provide an electronic transfer data of a business account, or if you subscribe to an app called Plaid, P-L-A-I-D, some applicants have access to this app and they have subscription to it. That would be the simplest way. They would have verified your banking info, and we can award you through the portal of Plaid. Or if you just want to use your regular bank, that's totally fine too. Just link your bank account and to receive the funds. Now I'm going to give you the information for those who may not have banking accounts related to their business and they have to open one. These are some that are recommended that you can tap into, but you can also reach out to any other bank locally that you like to work with and you prefer their relationship. That will be on page 55 for you to refer back when you're ready to open a bank account. And that's pretty much all the info I'd like to share this morning about the grant application. The toll-free number, again, is 1-877-721-0097. And you can call on Monday to Friday from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m., I believe, and also Saturday, I believe, from 9 to 5. So please make your questions ready when you have a chance to put in the chat box or Q&A right now so that I can answer them for you. Or if you can't think of anything right now but find something you need answers for, you can call the toll-free number or call one of the technical assistance providers listed under the drop-down menu on the navigation bar at www.nysmallbusinessrecovery.com. Once again, www.nysmallbusinessrecovery.com. And thank you so much for spending the time to learn about the program. And right now, I'd like to make sure that you can think of 5 other businesses that you typically work with in your neighborhood or in your business dealings or your personal network that could use the $50,000 grant that they can apply right now. Basically, you are just going to have to visit the portal and open an account and decide that you have interest in getting the grant amount that we described and upload all the documents, and you're ready to go. So please think about 5 businesses that really could use the money, and please let them know about the program. Thank you so much, and I will be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Heyman. That was a great presentation. I will now begin to read you some of the questions that we received from the chat or the Q&A.
Okay, great. Thank you.
One of the first questions that I actually saw in the Q&A was from Margaret Boyce, who asked, how about DBAs? So I'm not sure exactly.
DBAs are doing business as, they're sole proprietor typically. That's totally fine. DBAs can apply as long as they're regular business, like I mentioned, in terms of the type of business that we are able to help. As long as you meet that threshold of $25,000 minimum revenue, up to $2.5 million in total revenue, and can demonstrate 25% loss, net income of 1% or greater, or $1 or greater, and provide the 3 types of document to prove that you're operating and registered in the state of New York.
Thank you. Dr. Bethany Letty said that she had previously applied for the program and was denied because it was stated that she received a grant as part of the CARES Act. She stated, however, that she never received the grant. She only received an EIDL loan.
Okay, if that is the case, I would suggest reaching out to the toll-free number and ask them for clarification why they would deny a grant because they receive a greater IEDL number. I don't know the specific of that one. Or if you'd like to facilitate, the person could write to you about the specific instance and the PI, like the application number. I'll see what I can do to reach out to Landlord to find out the status of that, if that was the confusion there.
Okay, thank you. Our next question is from Lino Mendigoni. He has a corporation that runs 4 separate locations, 3 in the Bronx and 1 in Westchester, and they are all in one tax return. How does he separate, or you consider another way, or was this a waste of time for him?
If they're all under one tax return, you only be able to apply for 1 grant.
But how does he separate?
Separate what? The business tax return?
Businesses? Mm-hmm.
If you have 1 tax return that has 4 locations, they usually are consolidated. And if you have specific questions about that, I'll suggest working with one of the technical assistance providers to file the grant application. But basically, if you only have 1 EIN number, that will be 1 application.
Thank you. How does a PPP loan affect this?
Okay, so I did have a slide that talked about the PPP. So let me go back to it. So if you receive PPP, and like I said, it could be PPP 1, PPP 2, partially forgiven, non-forgiven, still being considered for forgiveness. It doesn't matter whichever status you are in. If you actually apply for PPP and you did receive in total, so take your PPP 1, PPP 2, add it all up, and basically if that number is under $250,000, you can apply for the program. Okay. I can't find that slide right now, but basically that's the answer. 250,000 and under, you can apply for the program. Oh, here you go. Yeah, so let me just verify that everyone saw the slide on page 9. So you can refer back to it later on the program guide. So you did receive any of these eligible federal programs, basically, a Paycheck Protection Program loans totaling $250,000 or less, like I said before, or if you did apply for COVID-19 IEDL advance grant of $10,000, or you did, like, for example, some people get confused with the IEDL. IEDL, it's a loan you can apply, but they do give you an advance grant of $10,000. If you receive $10,000 or less or $2,000 for IEDL advance and you apply for the loan, either you declined the loan or you got the loan, or the loan was $100,000 or $300,000, it doesn't matter. You can still apply for the program as long as the grant portion that you receive is less than $10,000. Now, same thing goes with the IEDL 19 Supplemental Targeted Advanced Grant Program. If you applied and you apply for a loan that is greater than $5,000, but you kept the $5,000 grant or less, that will be eligible for the program, basically. So don't get confused with the grant and the loan portion of IEDL. I hope that clarifies the question.
Thank you. So we at the county offered grants to our businesses. It was called the Westchester County Business First Grants. So the Ms. Barbara Nichols asked if they receive the county's Business First Grant, do they still qualify to apply for this grant?
Yes, they still qualify to apply for this grant. This is a 2 separate distinctive type of grant. However, I would suggest when they do receive the grant funds for the eligible use of funds, let me go to that slide for the eligible use of funds. Okay, so eligible use of funds is on page 12 of the program guide. You can use the grants you receive for any of these eligible expenses that were incurred from March 1st of 2020 to April 1st of 2021, as long as the expense you are trying to use the grant fund is not duplicated with any other grant funds you may have received. So if you pay, let's say, for a particular utility bill with the grant, a Westchester grant, don't use that particular expense to pay with this grant money. Find some other expense that you haven't paid or that you still pending and you still need to pay that will incur during that period.
Thank you. The next question, I think that just answered the next question, which asks if they use some of the PPP loan funds to pay salary and rent, can we use the grant funds for the same purpose?
No, you cannot, because you already got paid.
Is there an ending date for the program or concerns about running out of funds? Her company, Ms. Barbara Nichols' company, is on a fiscal year, which ended 2/28/21 and is on extension until November 15.
I see. I would suggest as soon as you're able to apply, just apply. Currently, there are funds available, but I can't guarantee how long they may be available until, either whatever date. There's no end date as long as the money is exhausted.
Karen Gallants asked, would a Square account statement count? Square is the
Square account,
platform through which
I
she invoiced. Okay.
Yeah. Square, as long as that account, the payment processing platform you use is related to your business account, that you can demonstrate the link there and the activity in there, yeah, that could be one way. That's a payment processing document, as long as that's from the last 30 days.
Thank you. She also mentioned that she didn't see the sole proprietor non-farming business form here.
I'm sorry. So what was the question on that?
It wasn't really a question, more of a statement. It says, I don't see the sole proprietor non-farming business form.
Okay, so if you're looking for a form that you think you may be able to submit to demonstrate your business operating, please call the toll-free number and ask them what form you may need to provide, or work with the TA provider to find out the specific kinds for your type of specific business. As long as it's a legally set up business in the state of New York and you file regular IRS taxes, you're going to be an eligible business. I just won't know, like right now, I don't know what form that will be to demonstrate that, but yeah, please call the toll-free number or the TA provider for the specific type of form you may need to verify.
Mark Damiano asks, is there a time limit in which to use the funds once you receive them?
It's only going to be good for the expenses that were incurred between March 1st of 2020 and April 1st of 2021. So I imagine you already have in mind kind of expense that were incurred, because like I said, this is a reimbursement program. So I would imagine when you apply for the grant, you had a need for it. I would say think about the needs of what you may use the money for, identify the needs, and pay down the funds for those expenses, and keep the receipt. There's no time frame for you to use the fund to pay it down, but I would suggest within the same fiscal year you receive the money.
If you get money from this, Amanda Capillas asks, if you get money from this grant, can you use them towards current rent and payroll, etc., or only expenses related to March 2020 and April 2021?
Exactly. Only related expenses from March 1st, 2020 and April 1st, 2021. It's not for future use, it's for reimbursement expenses that were incurred already. Or like payable. For example, if you have you on your books, you still haven't paid your landlord for April because you had a moratorium in place and you still owe them rent for commercial lease, you can pay them for that expense right now for expenses incurred during that period. It's only for expenses incurred during that period.
You cannot use them as reimbursements, you said?
You can only use it as reimbursement for the period that were incurred during March 1st of 2020 and April 1st of 2021. So, for example, if the question was, can I pay today for an expense incurred during that period? The answer is yes. Now, if the question is, can I pay for October rent? The answer is no.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
It does to me. I hope it makes sense to the person that asked.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see any more questions.
Wow. Okay, great. I'm so glad that people were actively typing down questions. I think I will just wait a couple minutes to see if anybody think of any other questions or follow-up questions they want to ask about this. And I think otherwise, make sure to take down the toll-free number 877-721-0097 if you think of any other questions, or if you have a much more involved questions about your situation, please work with a TA provider, a technical assistance provider for free, like I said, and you can drop down on the navigation bar and find your partner. And you can call any one of those that shows up in your region if you'd like to get assistance.
I see a couple more
Okay.
that just came in. Is the presentation available in Spanish? And if not, could it be made available in Spanish?
Great question. The presentation is in Spanish. If you go to the www.ny.smallbusinessrecovery.com, you go to the middle of the page, and you can look at the program guide. And if you want English, you get to the one I just used today. Or if you want Spanish, you just click on Spanish, and the Spanish will be available to you. The whole entire deck is available in Spanish, and 12 other languages that I mentioned before.
Thanks. Margaret Boyce also asked, do taxes need to be paid by the recipient if you receive a grant?
Okay, so this is a good question. I believe the advocacy group right now trying to see if you do receive the grant, that hopefully it will not be taxed, but it's still pending. The governor is considering it, and if you have advocacy people you would like to advocate for that, please do so. But basically right now, we don't have an answer for whether it will be taxed or not, but I believe typically it is until it's not. So just assume that it could be taxed, and it's very likely that you may get a gift that it says not taxed down the road. But right now they're negotiating that. So, going back to the question about the accessibility in Spanish again, I want to highlight two other points. If you need the Spanish help, and you have businesses in your neighborhood that are Spanish speaking, particularly in some sections in Westchester, or ethnic groups that really want Spanish language, when you go to the portal, www.ny.smallbusinessrecovery.com, besides the technical assistance, you could also drop down and say find a language, and then click Spanish. And then they will give you an option of who can speak Spanish to you to help you with the application if you want to speak to somebody. You can also call the toll-free number, like I said before, 877-721-0097. Ask the customer service to be connected to a Spanish speaker to help you with your question. Also, when you go to the portal website, you can go to the right-hand side of the corner, the top right corner. There's the thing called Accessibility Panel. You click on it, and you look at the flags that has Spanish language. I believe they put a Spanish flag. So just click on that. The whole page will be translated into Spanish for you to read. So besides the program guide in Spanish, the whole page will be translated for you. Also, when you go to the application, when you open the account, for each question, you can click on a little info icon, and you'll go to a video that tells you what that question is really asking you about. And if you want subtitles, you can click on settings, and you can click on Spanish. So we have made this program very accessible for all the different minority groups that are in our state that is contribute to our daily activities and robust profile and our economic recovery. We welcome you to spread the news as far as you can to help everybody who can actually tap into this grant. So Spanish was one, so make sure that you can use those resources. We have plenty of resources for Spanish speakers.
Thank you. Paola Fria asked, what if I want to open a small restaurant? Can I still be eligible for the grant?
No, unfortunately, you have to be in business already in 2019, at March of 2019, in order to apply for the grant. The grant has the legislation that makes sure that it serves businesses that were impacted by COVID-19 that were in existence. So no, if you're starting a new business, you will not qualify.
Thank you. Marianne Joyce asked, can landlords, large or small, apply for this program to make up for expenses incurred or losses during the pandemic?
Unfortunately, landlord that hold passive real estate do not qualify for the program. The only people who qualify for the program are the real estate brokers whose business is actually helping and selling properties, and they don't hold the actual property.
Thank you. Can you also share with us the website and the phone number again for anyone who needs to visit the site or follow up with their specifics to their case?
Sure, no problem. The phone number is 1-877-721-0097. And the website is www.ny.smallbusinessrecovery.com. I'll put up the last page so you can take notes if you wanted to take a photo.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see, I'm just double checking to see if there's any more questions.
That was great. Thank you so much for listening in and as well as putting in such detailed and thoughtful questions for everyone else to share.
I don't see any more questions.
Okay, great. Well, thank you, Corazon, for facilitating that Q&A. That was very robust.
Absolutely, my pleasure. And I would just want to mention that WETC reached out to me and wanted me to inform the participants that are listening that they are helping people apply for this should they need any additional assistance, and they have Spanish speakers. So,
Oh, excellent.
so my email was on the flyer, but it's cqpq@westchestergov.com. If you want to be connected with WebC, I can always make that introduction if you guys do not have their contact information.
Well, I appreciate WETC for speaking out about being able to assist in Spanish. They are one of the main TA providers in the Westchester area. So thank you, WETC, for attending and also for offering to assist participants on this call or on this webinar. And they also have many other great resources. If you need other access to capital needs, or they'd like to learn more, particularly the business that we're starting a restaurant business, you may want to reach out to WETC because they have plenty of resources for new businesses. They have a program called Entrepreneurial Assistance Program that has a robust training program and resources and help for startup businesses. So please feel to reach out to WETC. Their info, I think Corazon will be able to provide directly after you contact Corazon for that. And they're a great resource partner for you for all the other businesses as well. They are like a central key player for a technical system provider in Rochester area. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Raymond. It was a pleasure having you. This was a great presentation, and we're happy that people found it helpful.
Yeah, thank you. So thank you again for the opportunity to present and for you to stay on and to ask such detailed and thoughtful questions for your business. We encourage you to please share widely this particular info. We're definitely targeting businesses, the micro businesses, small businesses under $2.5 million. And if you love a specific business and you see that they are struggling and they could use the money, please let them know about the program. We really will want everyone that actually needs the funds who are able to meet the criteria that I mentioned before to apply as soon as possible. And thank you so much, Westchester County, for supporting small businesses. And also thank you, Corazon, for putting this together, and Bridget for hosting the event, and also the County Executive Latimer for his commitment to small businesses in Rochester. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good day. Bye-bye. I'm going to put my email in the chat.